do believe, absolutely know that. 100%. The words I used were send the letter with the evidence, giving our advice, and they make the decision. Totally agree with that. But I do believe it can be fast-tracked to current legislation. But again, we'd have to take advice.
It was actually, I was responding to Justin's comment that we need to bring forward a timetable. That was what was on my mind. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, colleagues. I mean, that's been actually well, a good discussion. We've heard from everybody. It's clear that board members feel quite strongly that now the time is right, that we should set a new well, I somehow don't like presumption, but actually that's the word you use. So a new presumption that there should be information provided in writing, as well as verbally, so that we maximise the chance. It's a sort of double safety net, I guess. I've also heard strong arguments from board members that the most effective way to achieve this would be to change the law and to mandate it. The FSA is committed to trying to make lives better for the people with food hypersensitivity. That's about 2 million people who've got food hypersensitivity or celiac disease or food intolerances. And I think what we are asking is that the written information specifically should be a legal requirement rather than the guidance which was proposed in the board paper. That said, I, as Emily said, am completely mindful of the fact that this is a decision for ministers. I'm also conscious of the current stage of the election cycle, and I can well imagine that this could get very held up. So I think it is incredibly important that we get on with the interim steps that we can do that are within our control in order to develop the guidance to make clear that that is the standard of good practice that consumers can expect to see, and that there is a strong expectation on business that this would be provided. It strikes me that will lay a lot of the groundwork for any future legislation, if that's what ministers decide that they would want to do. And I would hope that we could drive up the compliance beyond that 59%, so that we get started on this journey now. I think in the light of the discussion that we've had, the onus is now, I think the board is asking me to write to ministers in each of the countries and set out the conversation that we've had today, the case that we believe there is for mandation. And I will also talk to my counterpart Heather Kelman at Food Standards Scotland, because the ideal would be to try to do this on a 4-country basis. So I would suggest that the actions from this are for us to urge the executive to make as much progress as they possibly can in taking this forward now, for me to write to ministers about this, to talk with Food Standards Scotland, and to report back to you on where we get with those conversations. I don't think I can commit to more than that today. David and then Emily.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be a troublemaker, but could you record my official opposition to any attempt to legislate and make mandatory conversations? On the
don't think any of us are suggesting that, David.
I think yes, you did.
No.
Sum it up. I thought you did. Well, let me conclude.
I said that was a possibility. I'd support it, but it's absolutely not.
I thought we were summing up and suggested you were agreeing that all of it here be mandatory, including the conversations.
No, absolutely not.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. I'm content then on the basis it's physically impossible to write a law on having
I agree. I don't think anybody's arguing with that. Yeah. Emily?
I was just conscious that because you've agreed something that's different to the recommendation in the paper, it means that those who've read the papers in advance, so for example from others who would have agreed with the recommendation, like parts of the hospitality industry and so on, they may also have strong views. So what I was just going to say is that we will, and there will also be economic consequences for local authorities and enforcement, so all of those are going to have to come out.
Well, I think that we first need to sound out ministers as to what they're and then of course if there is plans to progress towards this, there will have to be the impact analysis and consultation and all that comes with that. But I think the first thing, I'm also conscious of workload. I want to focus us on doing the things in our control, and when we have heard some soundings, I think from ministers, we can decide whether now is the right time to do those other actions. I mean, I recognise it's not just a question of asking the ministers and it will be done tomorrow. There's a process, but I think that the decision-making moment that we have taken today, and I guess I say this just to affirm it, is that the position of the board is that we would like to see mandation for written information on in the non-pre-pack sector, without specifying exactly how that should be done, but assuming that that other work would be done in guidance. So we are taking a position as a board, and that we then pass really to ministers to decide what to do. If they want to instruct us to move forward on that, then there's quite a lot of work that follows from it. Are people content with that?
Obviously, I mean, you know, people know more about governance than I do, David, etc. But a recommendation is a recommendation, and there have been times before when, you know, the board has gone a slightly different direction. Actually, most of the direction we're with the exec, but on this just particular one point. But I think that's a very clear policy change that we are saying the board now supports written allergen mandation.
Okay, thank you for all the work that went into this. Thank you for a paper which set out all the options clearly and enabled us to have this discussion. I'm going to close this now and move on to the next item.